The global economic stage is tense as the United States and China make bold moves. China recently imposed new export controls on rare earth minerals, vital for everything from smartphones to military tech. By restricting these exports, Beijing is flexing its muscle in the global supply chain. Simultaneously, China halted purchases of U.S. soybeans, a blow to American farmers who depend on this massive market. These actions aren't random, they're strategic, targeting both high-tech industries and traditional agriculture. The message: any U.S. trade policy will be met with a calculated response. Export controls on minerals like gallium and germanium directly challenge the U.S. tech sector's reliance on China. The soybean halt pressures a politically sensitive group in the U.S., creating domestic headaches for policymakers. These moves show how trade disputes quickly become domestic issues, impacting ordinary people far from the negotiating table. China's strategy is clear: leverage its strengths to influence U.S. policy. The world is watching as these two superpowers enter a new confrontational phase. The stakes are high, and every move is calculated for maximum impact. This isn't just about economics, it's about power and influence on the world stage. As tensions escalate, the global community braces for the next move. The outcome will shape the future of international trade and geopolitics. In Washington, China's actions are seen as more than trade disputes. They're viewed as aggressive tactics, confirming fears about unfair practices and security risks. U.S. leaders have long criticized China for intellectual property theft, forced tech transfers, and heavy subsidies to state-owned firms. The U.S. goal: rebalance the relationship so American businesses can compete fairly. Tariffs and other measures aren't about starting a trade war. They're leverage to push China toward meaningful change. National security is a major concern, especially reliance on China for critical materials. The U.S. is determined to reduce this dependency by developing alternative supply chains with allies. The aim is a stable, reciprocal trade relationship, not total decoupling, but a reshaping of terms to protect American interests. Pressure comes from tariffs and export controls. Engagement comes from ongoing diplomatic talks. The U.S. wants China to follow international norms and open its markets. The strategy is a mix of confrontation and negotiation. The challenge: protect national security and economic interests without triggering a global economic crisis. The stakes go beyond economics. They're about the future balance of power. Rare earth minerals aren't actually rare, but they're tough and costly to process. These 17 elements power our modern world. Smartphones, wind turbines, electric vehicles, and advanced military tech all rely on them. As the world shifts to green energy, demand for rare earths is soaring. China dominates this market, controlling over 60% of mining and nearly 90% of processing. This dominance is no accident, it's the result of decades of strategic investment. The U.S. and others scaled back production, creating a dangerous dependency. China's threat to restrict exports isn't just about higher prices, it could disrupt entire industries. The U.S. military depends on rare earths for precision weapons and communications. A supply cut could have serious security implications. This dependency has turned a technical issue into a geopolitical flashpoint. Now, the U.S. and its allies are scrambling to diversify sources and rebuild domestic capabilities. Trade tensions hit hardest in America's heartland. For soybean farmers, China's sudden halt in purchases means plunging prices and mounting uncertainty. Many face financial ruin, with crops piling up and bills unpaid. It's not just farmers. Businesses relying on Chinese rare earths now face supply disruptions and rising costs. Small and medium companies are especially vulnerable, lacking resources to adapt quickly. Tariffs raise prices for everyday goods, stretching family budgets. The trade dispute, once abstract, now impacts millions of Americans directly. Economic pain is spreading from rural farms to urban households. The fallout is real, immediate, and deeply personal. U.S.-China tensions ripple through global markets, shaking investor confidence and stock prices worldwide. Companies everywhere are rethinking supply chains, seeking to reduce reliance on China, a process called de-risking. New investments are flowing into countries like Vietnam, Mexico, and India as firms diversify. Commodity markets are volatile. Brazil and Argentina are now selling more soybeans to China, while rare earth mining surges in Australia and Canada. The risk: a fragmented global economy, with rival blocs forming around the U.S. and China. This could mean higher prices, separate tech standards, and less global cooperation. The world faces the prospect of divided supply chains and reduced trade. Such fragmentation would make goods more expensive and slow progress on global challenges. The stakes are global, not just bilateral. Every country is watching and adjusting. The outcome could reshape the world economy for years to come. The pressure to adapt is relentless. The U.S. is fighting back with a multi-pronged strategy. Federal aid is helping farmers weather the loss of the Chinese market, aiming to prevent bankruptcies and keep agriculture afloat. At the same time, the U.S. is aggressively seeking new export markets, negotiating trade deals in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The goal: diversify customers and reduce reliance on any single market. On the industrial front, the U.S. is investing in domestic manufacturing and mining, using laws like the CHIPS Act to rebuild critical supply chains. The strategy: onshore or friendshore production, working with trusted allies. The U.S. is also coordinating with partners like Australia, Canada, Japan, and the EU to secure critical minerals and tech. Joint investments and shared R&D are building a united front. The aim: resilient supply chains and a technological edge. It's a long-term effort to break China's dominance and protect national security. The U.S. is determined not to be caught off guard again. At the heart of the conflict are clashing ambitions. The U.S. wants to maintain its economic and technological leadership, pushing China to play by global rules. It demands fair competition, stronger IP protections, and an end to forced tech transfers. China's goal is to keep rising, moving from factory to high-tech powerhouse. Beijing sees U.S. policies as attempts to contain its growth. Both sides believe they're defending their national interests. The U.S. wants to preserve the current order. China wants to reshape it. This makes compromise difficult. For ordinary people, the outcome affects jobs, prices, and innovation. Cooperation could bring prosperity. Confrontation risks division and instability. Both want security and prosperity, but have very different visions. Their rivalry is now playing out on the world stage. Are the U.S. and China locked in a trade war, or is there room for cooperation? The reality is a tense, managed competition. Trade and technology are the main battlegrounds. Both sides know full decoupling would be disastrous, so they're redefining the relationship's terms. Expect fierce rivalry in tech and security, with both nations building resilient supply chains. Yet global challenges like climate change and pandemics demand cooperation. The future won't be a return to the past, nor a new Cold War. Leaders must manage competition responsibly while keeping dialogue open. The world needs both rivalry and partnership. The stakes are too high for failure. The next chapter depends on choices made now.